Oh, I'm sorry. I am Mr. Ray. Okay. Good. I am Ray Lauritsen. I am from Pyrexar Medical. I'm the Vice President of Customer Care. And it gives me great honor to be here and relay this information to you.
So anyway, I want to ask you, the first question is, would you please let us know about this BSD-2000 patent?
Okay. Well, the base is not patented, okay, but the applicator is definitely patented. And the temperature probes. Well, the reason for the temperature box, or the temperature probes, was that we had a technology we wanted to protect. Okay. So we applied for a patent on it and received the patent, and the same with the applicator. So if we don't have a patent on it, then it's open to other companies to make the same type of an applicator.
Yep, so the first question I had is, what are the advantages of BSD-2000 compared to other equipment?
Yep. Well, the biggest advantage is how we generate and develop the power that is radiated into the patient. Now, this device has a number of antennas. You have 2 on the top, 2 on each side, and then 2 on the bottom. So all of this energy is radiated into the patient. So this allows us to be able to steer the energy to any location within the body, and also to control how large of a heating area we're going to produce. Now, some of the other advantages it has is it uses a thermometry that is a patented thermometry, but it can be used in real time. Now, when you're using something like a thermocouple, if you use that will heat from the energy. So the only way you can measure temperature is turn power off, measure the temperature, but with the temperature that we're using, or the temperature probe we're using, you can actually measure in real time. Okay. Now, other advantages it has is we do have the capability to mechanically drive those temperature probes back and forth throughout the body, and so we can measure at many different points. Now, the system has to have the capability to produce some sort of a treatment planning program. The SO guidelines that have been listed require this, and we have built into the system a treatment planning software.
According to the SO guidelines?
Yes. Okay.
Are there other systems around the world that also follow this guideline, or is BSD?
The guideline was developed around the BSD-2000 system. Okay. Now, other companies are beginning to follow some of these same guidelines. Now, this has always been referred to as the gold standard in hyperthermia. So what you'll find is there's a lot of studies that have been done specifically around the BSD-2000. Since 1987, there's about, I think, 25 or 26 different phase 3 studies. Now, the BSD-2000 was used in the majority of those studies.
And I heard also that the BSD-2000 was the only FDA approved.
It does have FDA approval.
My second question would be, according to guideline papers, the use of radiation method is important in treating deep hypothermia. Why is the use of radiative method important in this?
Well, there are basically 3 types of deep RF radiated systems. One is such as what the BSD-2000 does. We radiate the equipment. Then we have deep capacitive systems. The big difference between radiated and capacitive is the actual energy that's being produced. With capacitive, we have a plate on the top of the patient, a plate on the bottom of the patient. So the energy travels from one plate to the other plate. This becomes a perpendicular wave, and what's been found is a perpendicular wave will cause almost instantaneous fat heating. You can get fat heating up to 10 times higher temperatures than the surrounding tissue. Now, where we have the type of energy radiated by the 2000, it's radiated in a plane wave which is parallel to the body. So we have the energy basically, you'd have the energy across a broad surface versus across a pinpoint area of a capacitive system.
What are the reactions related to hypothermia treatment equipment overseas? So have there been any, what are the types of reactions that have occurred in maybe Taiwan or Europe?
What you're finding is it is more broadly accepted than any other type of treatment. This is based off of the fact that all of the articles that are written describing this are pretty much based around the Pyrexor or the BSD system. Okay, and as such, we have a much lower, rate of, pain developed from, the treatments, or discomfort developed from the treatments. Okay, so as far as patient reactions, it's been accepted very well.
What about the reactions when this is used, hypothermia is used alongside radiotherapy and chemotherapy?
Hyperthermia will dramatically increase the effectiveness of both, radiation and chemo. As an example, with radiation, one of the most difficult things to treat are hypoxic cells. Okay, well, one of the things that hyperthermia does is it oxygenates those cells, making them much easier to treat with radiation. So studies have shown a dramatic increase in the overall response rate, the complete response, and overall survival when used with radiation. Now the same with chemo, it does enhance that because hyperthermia actually really oxygenates the area that you're treating, so you'll have a much higher intake of the chemo drugs.
On your recent visit to China, have there been any very positive outcomes for hypothermia treatments being used alongside radiotherapy and chemotherapy?
Well, most of the treatments done in China are done as hyperthermia only.
Only hypothermia.
Only hypothermia, which the protocols pretty much used throughout the rest of the world involve it in conjunction with radiation and chemo. But China is using it. They do have some centers that do it in conjunction with radiation and chemo, but the vast majority of the centers only treat with hyperthermia.
Do you have any real life cases that you have heard from Chinese doctors regarding positive outcomes using just hypothermia or in China?
Well, we have received a lot of information. Again, it's all verbal information, talking about the success rates they are having with lung cancer.
So there are many good hypothermia treatment cases in Korea, and we think there are many good treatment cases of BSD-2000 overseas. Do you think you could just introduce briefly or mention just good cases around the world that you have heard of?
Okay. Well, one of the big studies that was done was a 5-year treatment plan on pancreatic cancer. Okay. Now this was done by Rolf Issel's group in Germany, and what they found is the addition of hyperthermia did increase the longevity or survival of these patients, which pancreatic is one of the most worst kind of cancer to get. But what it went from was a 5-year survival rate went from around 16% up to 28% when hyperthermia was added in.
Wow, that's almost double.
Yes. Okay. Okay, and the same thing with radiation when using that with cervical cancer. There was a very extensive study done by Kobe Vanderzee and Associates that showed the long-term survival of both 3 years and also 12 years was dramatically increased. Which it's nice to begin to see this sort of data, because in the past there has not been any long-term survival. But now we're starting to see 5-year, 3-year, 12-year survival rates.
Just things we can be cautious about. So if we just advise our users just what to be careful of.
Okay. Well, the first thing to notice is a temperature sensor is a very small device. As such, it is somewhat fragile. Okay, now this sensor is actually located at the very, very tip of this antenna. The rest of this is nothing but connecting cables to carry the signal back to the computer. This can be used inside of an RF field, and it does not affect it at all, and the RF field is not affected by it. Okay, well, to do that, what we have is a very high resistance, a very high impedance at this temperature probe. To make the connections inside here, it's like, if you'll notice how small this is, okay, this is not done by soldering anything because there are no wires inside this. Everything is a plastic conductor that has carbon particles impregnated into it. So we will have then a junction between this point and this point. The way this is accomplished is we use a conductive epoxy glue of actually gluing it together. Okay, so it's all done by hand, and then it's sealed over. Well, if you start to bend this at this point, you can break that seal. Okay, the same thing if you bend it at that end, you can break that seal. So the question is do not put stress on the probe by pulling it. Do not bend it very hard, and keep in mind it probably costs a quarter of what an automobile costs.